It's decision-making time for the San Jose Sharks as we continue our playoff push. Desperation is the name of the game right now. We've made the playoffs 2 years in a row, 2 great regular seasons, and we fell short twice, as you well know, in the first round. You look at this year, yet again, we're on a tremendous pace. First place in the Pacific with 21 games to go. Granted, the Coyotes have a couple of games in hand, but we are in a tremendous spot. And now is the time where, yet again, we're going to look to stock up to try and improve our chances. It was an off-season of change, losing Joe Thornton, although he is still with the organization. We bring in guys like Bjorkstrand, Zach Hyman. You saw the departure of the likes of Marc-Edouard Vlasic, Martin Jones, Kevin Labanc. And it's all led to this, where at the very least, this defense is getting some reinforcements. As far as just how crazy we go, I'm not sure, because the Jeremy Waugh pairing, I'm going to go with Waugh from now on. You know, that pairing of Waugh and Merkley has been pretty good for the majority of the season. As of late, they've slipped up a little bit, but I'd like to think in addition, probably 2, you factor in having Waugh, Fleury, and Merkley to help fill out the depth. That should, in theory, be good enough. Offensive additions could also happen, although we have some decent depth down in the AHL, so we'll see. That's secondary. And then goaltending-wise, again, I came to this conclusion before, and I still think it's going to be the case. While I technically have him scratched right now, I don't think Frederik Andersen's going anywhere. Because as, you know, some pointed out in the comments, and again, this is what I deduced in the last episode, if something were to happen to Binnington, do I trust that Connor Ingram could get us to the Stanley Cup Final? I don't know. So we will be keeping Freddie Andersen for that reason. That said, I want to get down to business with trying to get these trades done. First things first. First thing first. I guess things, because there are 2 defensemen that we are targeting. And the first one, by popular demand for the most part, is going to be Matias Ekam. Now, hopefully he's not going to be all that expensive. He has not had a very good season with Nashville, but, you know, looking at that Nashville roster, they're looking to get rid of a lot of established players, which makes me think that, of course, they're trying to tear it down a little bit. So I am very intrigued to see what the price will be. He'll fit in perfectly on the second pairing, probably next to Brent Burns, maybe Erik Carlsson if that's a better fit. He's a top penalty killer for us, an expiring deal. He's inexpensive. This should be a fairly easy deal to get done. Now, it would take a first and a second. Ellison, which I'm less eager to give up. Cole Perfetti, Evan Bouchard, or Houston. So we're looking at having to give up our first round pick this year, which I'm okay with because it's going to be a lower end pick, and that extra second round pick that we have from the Washington Capitals. Now, the good thing is as well, we do still have cap space. So in terms of making other deals happen, we'll still have the ability to do so. But my only question, or really my only thought here, is whether or not there's anything else we can do or that we could add on to try and minimize how much we're having to give up here. But if it's a first round pick, then so be it. Again, we have 2 second round picks this year. I think I'm just going to check to see what a 4th would be, and we're going to double check to make sure that they weren't trying to completely rip us off. But giving up a first round pick for Matias Ekam is something that I'm willing to do. I don't think they'd retain salary as much as I'd love them to. So as much as I want to try that, I don't think it's going to happen. So that was rejected, which isn't surprising. We'll go for the Tampa 3rd round pick and see how close that is. It's going to take a second rounder or a 3rd rounder and other picks. Now, I know it says sweeten a touch. It makes me think that's going to be at least a 4th round pick. I don't think the 5th will work. But I'd much rather do a 1st, a 3rd, and a 5th than a 1st and a 2nd. I mean, that just makes all the sense in the world. So will that go through? Yes, it will. So there you go. Matias Ekam is the newest member of the San Jose Sharks. It cost us a 1st and a 3rd, the 5th rounder as well, which is relatively inconsequential when you look at the amount of draft picks that we still have. So Matias Ekam, welcome aboard. However, you are not the only defenseman that we are targeting. There's another, who's suffering from a bit of a morale crisis, and that is going to result in us getting him for fairly cheap, and that is going to be Colin Miller, who is also on an expiring deal. Again, there's no way he's a 77. He's only played 58 games for them. Again, not having a great season, but we're trying to bring in players who should be able to play up to the level of the other guys on the team that they'll be joining. That's really the game plan with this one. Although I have no idea what the hell just happened, and it's going to back me all the way out, isn't it? All right, cool. Cool. Let me go back. It's really weird how the menus are set up for this. I guess I'm still just not used to them. But for Miller, hopefully it's not too expensive. A second, a fourth, and Barclay Goodrow, or Noah Gregor and a third. I mean, I'd rather keep Barclay Goodrow, to be honest. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to handle that, but we'll edit this trade. A second and a fourth isn't the worst scenario for me. And again, we still have one extra second-round pick. I want to save prospects if I can. And that would be a second-rounder next year, which I'm more than okay with giving up. So a second next year, a fourth, and a sixth this year? Actually, let's just go for a second and a fourth. I had a feeling they were just tacking on Barclay Goodrow. You got to be careful with these trades. The AI, they do like to kind of jip you a little bit. You got to be careful in paying attention with it. So the second won't go through, but we'll be able to save a fourth rounder. Well, what about a fifth rounder? Will that go through? It won't. Okay, so it is going to be a second and a fourth, but I get to hold on to Barclay Goodrow, which is fine by me. A second round pick. It's a risk pickup with Colin Miller, but a lot of you guys were on board with it. I think I'm on board with it as well. Let's do it. Miller, welcome aboard, and hopefully you're a little bit better than advertised now that you are on this team. You are an 82. I like it. I like it a lot. So he immediately bounces up to an 82. You see how drastically different that puck skills category is now that he's on a team that he's happy with. And this defense is looking that much better. That 7, I know in theory it's not, incredibly deep, I guess, but it kind of is. I think that 7 would be enough to get us to where we're trying to go. And then you factor in Bouchard and Sandin that we'll have for the future. Again, call-up options like Simic and Carrick. It's not that bad. And I said in the last episode I kind of regretted getting rid of Nick DeSimone, but at the end of the day, with us bringing in defensive help, he wouldn't have been playing anyway, so it was for the best that we got something for him. So I think that is good for the defensive side of things. I like where we're at. I think we're good to go. Now we have $5 million left in cap space. If we were to attempt to bring in some forward help, and there are 2 players I have in mind that were mentioned quite a bit that I think would be solid additions. I just want to make sure that cap-wise, we're good to go. And obviously the biggest issue could be the fact that we're paying, the $12.5 million to our 2 goaltenders. In terms of other forwards to get rid of, I'm not too concerned. Barclay Goodrow would kind of be the guy that could potentially go. And unfortunately, he had a phenomenal season last year. He just hasn't been the same guy this year. So worst case scenario, Goodrow gets moved out. But I think we are going to take a quick look at 2 players in particular. The first is a familiar face. Joe Pavelski, the former captain of this team. Obviously, cap retention would have to be a thing. And I don't believe I can set it from here, but I'm intrigued. Although, that's right, I guess I didn't go to Trade Finder. But first and foremost, it's, well, actually here, we'll go to Trade Finder first. We'll go to Trade Finder first. I feel like that'll be the better way to go. We were already there, weren't we? Maybe not. I'm losing it today, man. I'm losing it every day. Let's be honest. But I'm intrigued at what it would cost to bring back Joe Pavelski. Because it's Joe frickin' Pavelski, man. Again, former captain of this team. Marlowe and a third. All right, so that's not too bad. I mean, obviously, we're not giving up Patrick Marleau to do that, but that's a fairly cheap price. The other player would be a top 6 addition. That would be Jordan Eberle. Whether or not that's possible, I don't know. Again, 3-year deal. It's a little bit more expensive. I would probably turn him into a rental where we pick him up this year and then probably just like to flip him at the draft, treat it as a rental. And in terms of the value, we would be able to get this to work out. It would be a bit expensive, though. We'd have to give up Ellison or Cole Perfetti, someone of that caliber. But I think ultimately that could be done. So going back and really just taking a look at our team first and foremost before we do this, when you look at the forwards that we have right now in terms of overall, I mean, obviously the top line is pretty much set. I mean, Meyer, Couture, Hurdle is the top options. But if you talk about the addition of a Jordan Eberle and having him join that top 6, whether or not he'd be on the same line with Evander Kane, I don't necessarily know. But if you factor in, say it would be Kane, Bjorkstrand, and Eberle, and then the third line is Hyman, Marleau, Gambrell, fourth line of Stepan, Sorenson, maybe. I mean, obviously Barclay Goodrow's there and Alex True is there, but if we pick up Joe Pavelski, I mean, this team would be stacked. I mean, just stupidly stacked if we could somehow afford that. I don't know if we could. It might have to be one or the other. And if it's got to be one or the other, I think it makes more sense for it to be Pavelski. It probably makes more sense for it to be Eberle. I would want it to be Joe Pavelski. Because, damn it, core members of this team that have never won. You know, I can't help but still want that to happen. The thing is, though, Bjorkstrand has been pretty damn good. I mean, again, we picked him up on a very cheap deal, a trial deal. He's been great. So, again, I think you pick up Pavelski, move Derek Stepan back to that fourth line, and we're in a very, very good spot, if that's the case. It's just, money-wise, we can only... I didn't have to back out there. Money-wise, we can only afford one of them. And what I think it comes down to is whether or not Minnesota is willing to retain salary. Which, I mean, they should be, considering, considering that cap hit and the fact that they want to trade him. So, let's see if we could work out something for Joe Pavelski here. And technically, Eberle might still be possible as well. Now, that could be defined as overkill, and I don't think you'd be wrong, but overkill might be the way that this team wins. You know, it might very well be. So if I were to add the second round pick from Washington, how close are we? That would go through. They don't mind retaining salary. It's going to cost me a second round pick or less. What about a third from Anaheim? So it's a second round pick. I might be able to get a little bit more value back. What about the lesser value Blackhawks pick? Okay. 1 second round pick. We get Joe Pavelski on half salary and can still make a play for Jordan Eberle. We're doing it. Joe Pavelski, welcome back to San Jose. A captain returns. As it stands, I believe it auto-sent down somebody, thankfully. Hopefully it's not someone that we're going to lose. Let me actually go back here just to make sure that I can check. I know it said, like, oh, it would send this guy down. I genuinely don't know who it was. So hopefully I'm not losing anybody on waivers here, because that would really suck. Because in fairness, it really should have given me the option to potentially make a move. Let's just, okay, good. No one's been claimed yet. We should be okay. My next question is whether or not we still have the assets to make a play for Jordan Eberle, who, again, has 3 years left on his deal, but I will probably just treat him like a rental. But he has been phenomenal. In terms of salary cap, it might be close. It might be close. But we might be able to make this work. So again, say we were... that's okay, we have to at least give up a player. And that's where it would have to be a prospect. Like, there's no choice. Like, we would have to give up a prospect in this trade, it would be probably Cole Perfetti. You know, he's a little bit worse than Ellison. Defensively, I wouldn't want to give up Houston. With him, Sandin, and Bouchard, they're the best three that we have. Forward-wise, though, I mean, it is pretty much just Ellison and Perfetti. Maybe we do give up a defenseman. We technically have 2 defensemen, or 3 defensemen and 2 forwards. Maybe we do, and it would have to be Perfetti over Ellison because he's under contract. Say we give up Houston, which honestly might not be the worst idea. We do have Sandy and we do have Bouchard. He was our first round pick. He's a defensive defenseman, so I don't really know how well he's going to develop. But we add that option, and then again, so it would be Eberle, Meyer, Couture, for example, Hurdle, Kane, and Bjorkstrand, Hyman, Marlowe, Pavelski, which, Jesus Christ, that sounds amazing. Pavelski's actually down in the minors. We were able to send him down automatically, I guess. And then fourth line would be Stepan. I mean, I really like Dylan Gambrell, much like I liked having Kevin LeBanc on this team. I mean, Gambrell could be an option to give up here. He could be. It would kind of suck, but it also kind of makes sense. Because if you look at the rest of this team, like I said, say you have Hyman, Marlowe, Pavelski. From there, Sorenson would still probably be the depth forward. So we'd have Stepan, Gambrell, and I guess Goodrow. I think Alex True, I don't know if he's affected by waivers. He hasn't been very good. He is affected by waivers. We would have to give up somebody who's on this roster. Melker Carlsson could be the easy send-down option. Just to get a full look again here, though. So technically we have 3. Or technically that would be 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Third line there. Fourth line. And we have our depth options. So fourth line, Stepan, Gambrell, and Goodrow. So yeah, we'd still have to get rid of somebody, even through waivers. And I have to add somebody to this deal anyway. And looking at value, I mean, we do have some guys in the AHL that we could add. And hopefully, I have the money to pull this off, because it might actually be a little bit close. Sasha Chmelevski, I'd prefer to keep. I'd prefer to keep Grigor. Mikas is there, who could be added for a bit more value, alongside someone like John Leonard. Say we were to add Mikas as well. And for the hell of it, let's throw in Jordan Wheel. So yeah, we'd be over the cap, which is what I was afraid of, and honestly that's what I thought was going to happen. With salary retention, how extreme would this deal be to pull off, and are they willing to do that? Because that now approves it. Would that go through? It would not. Yeah, they don't want to keep salary. I'd really have to push that into their favor, which I don't necessarily know if that's going to work out for us then. Oh boy, I think we might just be a little bit too far up against the cap, and that's the side effect of paying Anderson and Bennington what we are to try and shore up the goaltending. We want to continue to carry 3 goalies just in case. I mean, I could ditch Ingram now just to get something for the value. I mean, high fringe, he's not going to get that much better. The defense, again, looking good. Hayden Fleury is probably going to be the healthy scratch on the roster. We have a perfect amount of depth there. And then again, forward-wise, we have our 10, 11, 12, 13 with Melker Carlsson, who I will probably attempt to send down. And, I mean, it's down to Melker or True. And, I mean, Melker hasn't been that great upon his return, so. And that's what I had a fear of. is that we're still technically over the cap now. So yeah, that Pavelski deal would absolutely crush us. So that can't be done. Although technically I don't think we would be over the cap. It's saying we have $4 million in space, but sometimes I think the game doesn't properly keep track of retention. I really like Barclay Goodrow. But right now, especially too with him having a weaker year, this might be the time for him to go. So we have a couple of moves that we still potentially have to do here. The Eberle deal isn't going to happen. There's just no way. It would require us to get rid of Freddie Anderson, which isn't going to happen. What we are going to try to do is shop Connor Ingram, because I'm sticking with Anderson and Bennington. So we get 2 5ths or Owen in a 7th. I will take 2 5th-round picks from the Philadelphia Flyers for Connor Ingram. That'll help the cap situation a little bit. And then forward-wise as well, we are going to be moving out Barclay Goodrow. It's not much in terms of cap alleviation, but he's going to go. I'd prefer to have Sorenson as a depth option with how versatile he is. So Goodrow's a 4th and a 6th. Holy hell, we have a lot of offers here. Is that Kyle Clifford? That is Kyle Clifford. Obviously, we'd prefer a pick. So a 4th and a 5th from Colorado could be very nice. Is that the best deal that we're going to get? 4th and a 5th from Pittsburgh is even better because they're not a divisional rival. Toronto is also available. I'm going to take the deal from the Pittsburgh Penguins. 2 picks next year. But Barclay Goodrow has been dealt out of necessity to try and free up the space to be able to call up Joe Pavelski. There we go. So overall, that is our 10, 11, and 12. Depth option now will either be Melker or Sorenson. Not sure which. And again, we do have some damn good depth in the minors right now that could really pay off for us. So looking at this team, let's just go best lines because I'm going to have to mess with this anyway before playoff time. But I think, man, it's at the point where it has Hyman on the freaking 4th line by default. You know, let's say I have Sorenson in instead. So we have Sorenson, Stepan, and True, Marleau, Pavelski, Gambrell, Meyer, Hurdle, Bjorkstrand, which I still don't hate. I mean, it really could be any combination of this. But I do wonder, like, if we were to take out Alex True, right? You drop Zach Hyman, you add Jordan Eberle to that offense. I think it's something that we have to try. And again, this defense is going to be looking pretty good. Both fit in pretty well. We might have to slightly alter some player types. But, I mean, there's no denying that this team is already better. It sucks that Barclay Goodrow had to be a casualty of it, but that is what it is. I just don't know if I could pull off this Jordan Eberle deal. There are other options, but I tend to agree that he is the best one. Money-wise, we should be okay. Worst case scenario, we add Sorensen to the deal. I don't know if we necessarily have to do that though. So with Eberle, say I were to add Houston. He's our big play there, so we would be over the cap, which kind of sucks. They didn't necessarily want to retain. Doesn't mean we can't get them to. We would just have to stack up the value a little bit higher for them. And then again, if we were to flip Eberle afterwards, it would be for a pretty damn high value deal. So let's just say it was Houston and a 4th to see how close that is. Not close enough. Houston and a 3rd from Anaheim. Still not quite. I mean, 2 third-round picks would still be fine by me. Although, it might have to be a 2nd. What if we use our 3rd next year as well? So that would go through. They don't want it to go through, though, because of the retention. Now, Mikas was an option. An unsigned option. He was a medium 9. Say we add him in for a little bit of extra value. Still no. This might not work, but hey, we got to try. And let's go with that 4th. It's a bit of a mess of a deal. Let's take those out. We add in Chicago's 2nd. How close are we? You know you want to retain salary. This is still worth it, I would say. I mean, again, I know draft pick-wise, it's going to be a rough draft for us, but if we win the Cup, who gives a shit? I mean, we're going all in. I mean, as if that wasn't evident. We're giving up a decent defensive prospect, an okay forward prospect, and 2 picks. If that were to go through, and it didn't. I don't know if we'll be able to get this to go through at all. The 4th rounder is still not enough. I just don't think that they're going to be willing to retain any salary. And because of that, I don't think we can get this deal to work. It would have to require moving one of the 2 goalies, and like I said, I'm not going to do that. That's a little bit too big of a risk for defensemen. I mean, there's really nobody else to move out outside of Sorenson. Sorenson would be the one guy who could alleviate a little bit of cap space for us to try and make this work. And I really like Marcus Sorenson, but we do have other options that could be used. So cap-wise, it's saying we're in the clear if we were to add Sorenson. I think I'd still want to try in terms of retention to get this to work, just to make sure that we really are good. So Houston, Mikas, Sorenson, a 2nd and a 3rd went through. Jordan Eberle is the newest member of the San Jose Sharks. We had to sacrifice an okay forward prospect, a good defensive prospect, a 2nd and a 3rd, and Marcus Sorenson to do it. But we get Eberle on half salary. We will probably flip him, although to be honest now at this point, we probably don't have to flip him because he's making under $3 million. You know, that's one hell of an improvement to what Marcus Sorenson provided. And I liked Marcus Sorenson a lot. He fit in very well with this team. But you look at this squad now, and, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks that Sorenson's out because I thought he could have been useful to us. But hell, we could give Blichfeld an opportunity. We could. He hasn't had the best season, but Blichfeld, Wheel, Dahlin, Gregor, Matt Nieto, there are guys who could be given a chance if we don't have confidence in Alex True or Erik Carlsson heading into this postseason. So right now, Carlsson is the scratch by default. And we are looking at a 4th line of True, Stepan, and Gambrell. Stepan and Gambrell should be able to work very, very well together. We're looking at Marleau, Pavelski, and Hyman. And then, tough call from here. Do we stick with Meyer, Hertl, Bjorkstrand, Kane, Couture, Eberle? Looks pretty good to me. Looks pretty damn good to me. I mean, then you also factor in those defensive changes. It is tough to dislike what we're looking at here. I mean, Marlowe's back, Pavelski's back, Thornton's here as a coach. We still have Freddie Anderson and Jordan Bennington that we're going to continue to run with. A lot of different overall and potential changes we can work with. And again, if we're not sold on Alex True or Erik Carlsson, there are AHL options that we can go with. So we are done. I mean, we are up against the cap for sure. We are up against the cap, but we're making it work. We have, again, 21 games left this season. Let's see what happens as we go through the final month and a half or so of the regular season. So the big sacrifices, the likes of Barclay Goodrow, we literally can't claim Filppula. He is just way too expensive. He's also, a 78 at 37 years old, was it? Yeah, no, I'll pass. Thank you. We have a couple of sacrifices on the team. Barclay Goodrow, certainly one of them. Marcus Sorenson, another pretty big sacrifice. But unlike last year, where the argument could be made that I didn't go 100% all in. We went with Evgeny Dadonov over Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I don't think there's any denying that we went all in. I don't think we really could have gone much more all in without giving up the likes of Cole Perfetti. We gave up one good prospect out of all of that, and picks. The picks hurt, sure, but to only give up one prospect, we lost 2 roster players, but improved in those positions. It's tough to view what just happened as a loss, I would say. As we'll get Evan Bouchard back in for the Barracuda. He's a terrible fit on that third pairing. And we'll see what happens here. 41 wins. A couple more losses than I'd prefer to see as we do well against the other California teams. Play Colorado. That's a loss. We're still in first place. We're neck and neck with the Oilers. We get a pity point against Montreal. We lose to Chicago. We're on pace. We've already clinched a playoff spot, right? So that's good. It's just whether or not we're getting that top seed. And 3 wins out of 4 sets us up on a pretty good path with 3 games left to go in this season. As Erik Carlsson's leading this team in points, we have 3 games left. We are 2 points clear of both the Coyotes and the Oilers, but we know that we are back in the playoffs for the 3rd year in a row. It's just a matter of what the seeding will be. Now, obviously, I didn't have to back out to check the standings, although you can't stop it from auto-scrolling, but what I wanted to check is what we're looking like here. So Alex Stroh, at least in the plus-minus department, has gotten a hell of a lot better. You still have Stepan on 36 points, and Gambrell, he's too good for the 4th line, but you look at Zach Hyman, who's been great. You look at what Pavelski's done this year. Patrick Marleau's still done well for us. Eberle, I think, has only scored 2 or 3 goals. But, you have Logan Couture up over 50 assists on the year. 38 goals for Evander Kane. 61 points for Bjorkstrand. Jesus. We're probably going to lose him at the end of this year, but we really took advantage of him needing an opportunity to revitalize his career. We really did. So you talk about all the different line combinations that could be done heading into the postseason. In terms of player types and where certain people are playing, there'll be a lot of managing the lines heading into the playoffs. But for now, we're going to leave things the same. We have 3 games left. A win over the Oilers would pretty much guarantee that they can't pass us and would give us that little bit of extra separation on the Coyotes. I thought that would go back to advanced day automatically. It did not. It did not. So let's see. Can we beat Edmonton? They're a little bit of a hotter team than we are. So the Rangers fire their head coach. We win 7-2. Gigantic victory as the Coyotes lose as well. We need 1 point from our final 2 games to secure our 3rd straight division title. Can we beat the struggling Canucks to do just that? Yes, we can. For the 3rd year in a row, the San Jose Sharks are Pacific Division champion. Now it's just a matter of what we can do in the playoffs, right? As we beat Washington 8-5 in the final game of the season. But none of it matters. It's all down to the playoffs. A 49-win year for us, which is pretty damn good. 104 points. Arizona, Edmonton, and Vegas also made it. The Los Angeles Kings, one of the worst AI teams I have ever seen. Good Lord. In the Central, Colorado, who won the conference, Winnipeg, Chicago, and St. Louis made it. We are taking on the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round. Very fitting, arguably. Maybe, I don't even think it's debatable. The hottest rivalry IRL right now in hockey. Over Boston, Toronto, over Boston, Montreal. I think with those games, you could be like, yeah, maybe. I could envision a line brawl in every game between San Jose and Vegas, and I can't envision that with any other 2 teams in the league right now. So that is very fitting. And the Atlantic, Boston, Montreal, Florida, and Tampa, Ottawa as well. 5 teams make it from the Atlantic. So from the Metro, we have Pittsburgh, the Islanders, and the Capitals. So all in all, we were the 5th best team in the NHL this season, one of just 7 teams to break the 100-point barrier. Goals for per game, we had a tie for the 3rd best offense, really the 2nd best offense in the league. So tremendous stuff there. Goals against at a .299, which mid-table, but towards the bottom, which is pretty surprising given some of the struggles that we had seen. Our power play, 3rd best in the league at 26.7%, and 80.9% penalty kill, which was also up there, mid-table, but towards the top. And in terms of shorthanded goals for, we were mid-table somewhere, which is fine by me. So, as you'd expect, another very strong season for us. And in terms of the points, we'll start off with the forwards. Logan Couture, point-a-game effort from the captain. 26 goals, 22 points on the power play. Timo Meier, 31 goals, 80 points on the year. Tomas Hertl, just shy of 30 goals, but 70 points. Evander Kane, just shy of 40 goals, 68 points for him. And again, Bjorkstrand, unbelievable value signing, 65 points this year. Jordan Eberle finished with 62 points. You have 55 for the returning Joe Pavelski. Dylan Gambrell with 48. Zach Hyman with 45, which, again, talking about him being the Kevin LeBanc replacement who fits in a little bit better with the coach that we have. That's what we have with him. Patrick Marleau, 39 points this year, 36 for Derek Stepan, 14 for True, 10 for Melker Carlsson in 17 fewer games than True. So like I said, I think that's the biggest question that we have right now is who gets that final spot on the 4th line. Is it True? Is it Carlsson? Do we go with Blichfeld or somebody else from the AHL? We will take a look at AHL stats in a moment. Defensively, Erik Carlsson, he outright led this team in points. 91 points, 21 goals, 68 points for Brent Burns with 23 goals. Ekholm finished the year with 24 points. Only 16 for Merkley, but he did that without power play time. Colin Miller with 14 points, Jeremy Waugh as well, and Hayden Fleury. Strong season. Again, we didn't need Merkley, Waugh, and Fleury to be major point getters for us when we have Erik Carlsson and Brent Burns. Goaltending-wise, perhaps a bit of a controversy here. Perhaps a little bit of a dilemma. Who starts? Frederik Andersen or Jordan Binnington? So we have the option on the 4th line what to do. We need to make that choice. Jordan Binnington, I think, has won the starting role. But, Freddie Andersen, maybe he turns it on in the playoffs. Again, we nearly traded Andersen. At the very least, we'd have him as a safety net, but it's a bit of a tough call. Before we look league-wide, I do want to take a look at the AHL, even though that season won't be over yet. As you see what Trevor Carrick and Evan Bouchard have done from a point production standpoint. Mario Ferraro was also okay. But forward-wise, Dylan Sikora is leading that team. Nieto, Blichfeld, Brodzinski. There is no shortage of options that I think could do very well on that 4th line. If you wanted someone who's a bit more defensively responsible, Jordan Weal could be the guy. Good skater as well. Zach Gallant brings a very physical presence to the lineup if that's what we wanted. Noah Gregor is the same way, even though right now he's listed as a sniper. He actually does have a pretty good shot. He could be more of a power forward. So plenty of options in terms of how we want to set up this team heading into the playoffs. And we've given ourselves pretty much every opportunity to try and win. As you see, the point totals from this year, pretty damn ridiculous. I have to say, numerous 100-point getters. Dominic Cahoon had to have been playing alongside Malkin or Crosby. Fairly crazy numbers here across the board for so many of these guys. I'm going to quickly scroll down, and we'll stop right about there. But then that way you guys can see all the top getters. And yes, Anthony Duclair had as many points and also scored 40 goals. So, yeah, 40-goal Anthony Duclair. Ovechkin and Kucherov, 59 each. We had 5 50-goal scorers in this season, which is crazy. Braden Point, a Winnipeg Jet, by the way, 79 assists on the year. For defensemen, Erik Carlsson led the way. Second place, tied for second, Brent Burns alongside Victor Hedman. That is insane. That is how much better Erik Carlsson was. Head and shoulders above everybody else from a point production standpoint. Absolutely tremendous. And for goaltenders, the winningest was Connor Hellebuyck with 46. The shutout king was Robin Lehner with 6. He's now in Colorado. Save percentage leader, Robin Lehner. He is going to win the Vezina, no doubt about it. And for the rookies, it is going to be Vitaly Abramov at 23 years old, who is going to win the Calder over the likes of Nick Suzuki, Rasmus Asplund, Anton Lundell, and others. So that brings this season to a close. Again, we already know it's the Vegas Golden Knights in round 1 of the playoffs, but we have a lot of decisions to make when it comes to the changes to the lineup. But the good thing is we have home ice advantage off the back of another division title. So let me know, what you guys think of the episode? Did we make the right moves this time? Again, Pavelski, Eberle, Ekholm, and Colin Miller. These were the guys that I saw mentioned the most, the thumbs up and everything in the comments. So hopefully it worked out. In terms of getting other more valuable players, I think we pretty much hit the limit that we were going to have. Again, the fact that we only had to give up one major prospect to get all those deals done, I feel like that's a win. We managed to, somewhat maintain the limited prospect pool that we already had. Look forward to seeing your suggestions as far as what we should do, the personnel we're going to be using. Pressure is on, not only to get out of the first round this year, but to win the whole damn thing.